Hi, and then thank you for remembering. We are going to be recording this meeting. That's for your benefit so that you can go back and watch it over and over because it's going to be so fun. It's also for the benefit of other people in the village if they want to get a refresher or learn how to do the energy benchmarking. So that being said, I'm going to toss it over to Katie Kaluzny from the Illinois Green Alliance, who's going to do the bulk of the data jam today.
Thanks, Allison. My name is Katie Kaluzny. I'm Deputy Director at the Illinois Green Alliance, and I'm excited to be joining you here today to talk about energy and water benchmarking. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. And so I'm going to be walking you through a lot of the session today. I'm going to show you the agenda just really quickly. I'm going to do not some introductions for everybody in the meeting, but I'm going to have you use the chat if you can to just first introduce yourself, say who you are, and the type of building that you're benchmarking. And that'll really help us to make sure we're hitting on all the different points throughout. You can also put any questions you have into the chat as we're going throughout the session, and we'll make sure that we talk about all those questions near the end. We're going to start with an overview of the energy and benchmarking ordinance from some staff at the Village of Oak Park. Then I'm going to jump back in, explain Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and give you a tutorial, kind of a step-by-step guide on how to use the tool to benchmark your building and your utility data. We're going to end with some helpful resources if you want to learn more, and then we'll have a lot of time for questions. So we'll, depending on how many people want to stay and do questions, we can do them all in one room. We can go into breakout rooms and handle people's questions more individually. So make sure to save any questions you have for that time and or put them into the chat throughout, and we'll make sure to address those. I'm going to turn it over to Marcella with the Village of Oak Park to talk a little bit more about the energy and benchmarking ordinance and how it got started.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marcella Bondi Keenan. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for the Village of Oak Park. Thank you for coming today. I just wanted to give a brief overview of why we have a benchmarking ordinance in Oak Park. So you might know that last year the village adopted Climate Ready Oak Park, which is a community climate action and resiliency and sustainability plan. It goes out through 2050. And a few of the big goals are listed on this slide here. So first of all, we're trying to really decrease our greenhouse gas emissions quite a bit by 2030. So 60% less than what we had in 2019. And we're trying to get to net zero greenhouse gases by 2050. So being a truly carbon neutral community for the whole village. So next slide, please. We adopted this, and the greenhouse gas drivers in Oak Park are mostly buildings and transportation. So 70% of our greenhouse gases are created by energy use in buildings, particularly natural gas, but also electricity. And about another quarter is from transportation sources, mostly people's gas, passenger cars and trucks and things like that. So buildings are a really big piece of the puzzle when it comes to getting to our climate action goals. Next slide. And a little bit more about buildings. So you can see that mostly natural gas is driving greenhouse gas emissions in the village. Our residential buildings, including multifamily, that has a higher than average energy use per capita. According to the rest of the county. And actually the commercial sector is doing really well. So you guys can already pat yourself on the back. The commercial energy use in Oak Park is lower than Cook County on average per capita. And so, you know, we definitely have some room and opportunities to keep reducing our energy use. Next slide. So the Oak Park benchmarking ordinance was passed in February 2023. It includes both water use and energy use for the whole building. And it covers public buildings and privately owned buildings both for commercial and multifamily buildings over 10,000 square feet. So the Village of Oak Park has already benchmarked its facilities. We had an earlier due date that we did earlier this year, and some of the other governmental agencies also had buildings that they were benchmarking. And the way that it's done is through Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which Katie will get into in a few minutes. And so, yes, so the village already benchmarked its buildings on June 1st, and we'll be sharing that data next year. And then December 31st of this year is when all other covered buildings need to be benchmarked. And then we'll be sharing that data transparently via our website next year. Next slide. So again, the ordinance requires whole building energy and water data for the previous year, not by unit or tenant, but just for the whole building. And that the records are preserved for 3 years on a rolling basis. And by data transparency, we just mean that we'll be publishing, the Energy Star score for all of the covered buildings on a website, so folks can see how they're doing. There is the typical village enforcement process through development customer services. It might be neighborhood services if it's a multifamily building, or development if it's commercial. And it's basically the same process we use for everything, which is first, we let you know that there was a deadline, and we try to get you into compliance, give you technical assistance. That's part of what we're doing today. We're hoping that by the end of today, you'll be fully confident to be able to benchmark and be super in advance of that December 31st date. And then from there, it would go from there, conversations and trying to help you get into compliance. Okay, next slide is
me.
Okay, there is one other thing I just want to put into the chat. I mentioned that natural gas is a big part of it, and we are having an event coming up next month. It's called Pathways to Creating an All-Electric Building. So if you're thinking about replacing a gas-powered appliance like a heater or a boiler, you might want to think about making it electric instead. And so we're having 2 sessions of this. One will be a webinar, and one will be at the library at Mays Branch. It's totally free. We'll have experts from a variety of sectors, including the commercial property assessed clean energy financing group at Cook County, so financing for your project, and as well as some ComEd programs that are also offering money and different, incentives to help you get to that all electric use. Okay, I will pass it to you, Katie.
Thanks, Marcella. That's a great overview. I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit more about Energy Star and the tool we're using for benchmarking. But I also wanted to mention, just for those that are just joining the session, if you missed the opening intros, if you don't mind using the chat to put your name so that we know you're here, and also the type of building that you're benchmarking, whether that's a commercial building or a multifamily building, a school or a worship facility. That'll help us to make sure that we have good track of who's here. Answer those questions as we go through the slides. So thanks for doing that. So Energy Star is probably something that you have seen on lots of things before. Energy Star is a label and a brand kind of developed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. You see it on appliances, you see it on a lot of different resources, but they also have a tool that's free to use to benchmark your building as well. There's more than 700 utilities and state and governments that use Energy Star in their efficiency programs. Energy Star Portfolio Manager, as I mentioned, is a free online tool that helps people measure what they're trying to manage at their building. So you can assess and track energy, water, and waste consumption over time, and track those trends, and also can give you kind of a score of how you're doing. Some buildings are eligible for a 1 to 100 Energy Star score. One second, there's some folks in the waiting room. Here we go. And it can give you a 1 to 100 score, and 50 is the average, and that is tracking about different buildings that are your same type and size across the country, and how you're doing compared to buildings of a similar type and size as far as energy, water, or waste consumption. Some buildings are not eligible for an Energy Star score because there's just not enough buildings of the similar type and size, or that building type is just really unique and nuanced. And so there's also a different score that you'll see, which is Energy Use Intensity, or EUI. And that's talking about your total energy use per square foot at your building. And so if you have a low EUI, that means you're doing well with energy use per square foot. If you have a high EUI, it might mean that you need to look at some opportunities for efficiency. And I mentioned why we're using Energy Star Portfolio Manager. One of the reasons is that it's free. It's a tool that most most other municipalities that have passed a similar ordinance to Oak Park use to track energy, water, and waste. It's really user-friendly for the person that's doing the benchmarking at the building. And it's a way to just report that usage over time. So it does a really good job of tracking. I'm going to start talking through how to use Energy Star Portfolio Manager. There's a few different steps that we're going to go through. One is how to create a personal account. So everyone that's using Energy Star Portfolio Manager can have their own personal account and login, just like you might have to a different type of software. And then we're going to show you how to create a building profile. The building profile is unique to that building. So you can share the building profile between different personal accounts. If multiple people at a building are working together, they can all have their own personal login to Portfolio Manager, but then they can share that building profile together and work on it instead of creating multiple building profiles. And I'm also going to show you how to enter your utility data. I'm going to talk about how to collect the data too if you have not been able to do that yet. How to share the data with the Village of Oak Park. And also I'll just touch on how to run reports if you're interested in that as well. And as I mentioned, we're going to end with some extra helpful resources too. So the first step is how to create an account. If you happen to be someone that has two screens where you're viewing this webinar, if you'd like to open this website and follow along with me, you're more than welcome to. But you are going to get this full slide deck after today's session, as well as a recording of me saying all of these things. And so you can follow along later as well and always follow up with questions. But the website you're going to go to is portfoliomanager.energystar.gov. And on the right-hand side of your screen is a place to either log in if you've already created an account and using your username and password, or you can register now and create an account. Once you create an account, it's going to send you an email. So you have to verify that you are a human and that is your email address before you're able to log back in and start working on your account. Once you are logged in and verified that email address, you're here in creating a personal account. This is all information about you and things that you need to know. It's not about your building yet. So here you're going to create your username, your password, what's your first and last name, your email address, and then phone and country. Once you do that, you're going to move on to the next page, and it's going to let you start to set up a account. So this is the main screen once you're logged back in. You have these 4 tabs that are circled in red here at the top, and this is where you're navigating through most of the Portfolio Manager tool. My Portfolio is the main tab that comes up when you log in. This is the tab you'll be on the most, and this is kind of your home screen for all of the different buildings that you're setting up and benchmarking. So you'll see here is, you could have a list of 10 different buildings here on this home screen, or you might have just one. And what you want to do if you have 0 buildings here yet is to create, to add a property. We'll get back to some of the sharing and reporting tabs later and talk about some of those other features at the very top of the bar, like contacts and notifications. But the first thing you're going to do to get your building started is to click Add a Property. When you add the property, it's going to ask you a number of questions next. But the first thing it's going to ask you is, what is the primary property type? Energy Star Portfolio Manager has over 80 different property types that you can select. You want to select whatever more than 50% is of the building's primary purpose. So if that is office space or multifamily building, think about the total square footage of your building and what is the thing that it's used for most. And that's what we're going to start with. You'll always have the opportunity to add a secondary use type on some further screens. But this first one is going to help you get started with the right questions on the majority of what your building is doing and how it's using energy. Then you're going to click that your building is a single property. If you happen to have a building that is part of a campus or multiple buildings, that's something we can talk about during the Q&A or on an individual basis. But most buildings for the Oak Park benchmarking ordinance are going to click 1, my building is a single property, and click existing because your building exists and it has energy that it's been using over time. And then you'll click get started and it's going to take you to the questions. The next page is going to ask you really general information about the total and the whole building. And so if it's going to make you name the building. If you're sharing this building amongst different people and with the Village of Oak Park, I would recommend naming the building something very recognizable, and not something that only you call it. So call it the name of the building or the address of the building, whatever it is that your building goes by. It's also going to ask you for the street address, the city, state, zip code. That is all information that's helpful, not only to know that where your building is located for Oak Park, but also Energy Star Portfolio Manager uses weather normalized data to help you understand your energy use. So it's comparing you and your building's energy use to the climate zone that we're in, and not to someone that's in Arizona or Florida. Then you're going to enter the gross floor area of your building. And that's might not be a number that you have or keep track of more regularly. A lot of people think about leasable square feet or rentable square feet, but you want to include the gross floor area. So it's any building, inside the building envelope that is conditioned space and using energy. So that's wall to wall, ceiling to floor, the whole interior space of the building here. And then it might ask you some additional questions at the bottom based on whatever primary use type you picked to begin with. It might ask you if you have parking with your building, because if you have parking, you probably have lighting for your parking. It might ask you if you have a swimming pool, if you put a gym or something like that. It might ask you if there's restaurant or retail space associated with your building. And that's all checkboxes there at the bottom of the screen that help Energy Star to ask you the right questions moving forward about how your building uses energy. I'm going to go through a few different common use types because there's different questions that Portfolio Manager will ask depending on the type of building that you are entering. So for a multifamily building, the first questions that it's going to ask next are about the gross floor area of that multifamily space. So if the multifamily building is completely 100% multifamily, then you're going to enter the same exact square footage as you put for the gross floor area on the previous screen. If you have more than 5,000 square feet of a different use type, like office or restaurant or retail, then you're going to put just on this page the gross floor area of the multifamily use type total. So you're going to subtract out whatever else you have in the building and put the number of the multifamily here. It's going to ask you next about the total number of residential living units. And so that is how many units are in the building. So if you have a number of studios or 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom units, just what is the total number of units in the building? Then it's going to ask you 3 additional questions, and you need to put a number in each of these different spaces. But really this question is getting at what is the total, how tall is your building? It's basically what it's asking. So is your building 1 to 4 stories? Then you'll put the total number of living units in that column and put 0 for the next 2 selections. If your building is 5 to 9 stories, then you'll put the total number of living units in that box and put 0 in the 1 to 4 and 0 in the 10 and more. And if your building's larger than 10 stories, your total number of living units number is going to go there in 10 or more, and you're going to put 0 in the other 2 columns. And then the next question that's going to ask is number of bedrooms. And this is likely going to be different than the number of living units, because this is trying to get a little bit closer at what the total occupancy of your building is without you knowing how many people live in every unit. So total number of bedrooms, if you have, studio units and you have 1 bedroom units, but then you also have a number of 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom units, you want to add up the total number of bedrooms and put that number here. Energy Star has a really great glossary tool. I'll add that to the chat in a little bit. I don't want to. But I'm just going to ask folks if they can mute their line if they are in the meeting. That would be okay. I hear a little bit of background noise. Thank you. And So anyways, there's a glossary of terms. And so any blue highlighted link you see throughout Portfolio Manager, you can see that you can click on that link and it's going to give you a definition and take you to this glossary tool. So if you get back to your computer and you're wondering, what did Katie say about 1 to 4 units and 5 to 9 units? You can click on that link and it brings you to the glossary. And I have it here. It's kind of explaining what that means in a little bit more detail. The glossary is in alphabetical order. So you'll see right after that, it's talking about weekly ice resurfacing for ice rinks. That's likely not going to apply to anyone here, but someone, that definition is very important. So again, the glossary is a really useful tool for understanding what to put in each of these boxes. If you have an office property or part of your secondary use space is office, it's going to ask some different questions than multifamily. It wants to know the gross floor area of that office space, the weekly operating hours. And again, you can click on that blue link and understand what it means there. But the weekly operating hours it's not asking you like 9 to 5 for that box, but what's the total number of hours that the building is in use, people are there using energy, heating and cooling during the week. So that might be 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And so the total weekly operating hours would be 40. If it's more than that, or if it's used differently every week, I'm trying to put an average of what the use type is throughout that time, is for that office space in particular. It's also going to ask number of workers on the main shift. So how many people are in there in the main portion of the day, the approximate number of computers that are used on site. So again, I'm trying to figure out how much energy is being used. And then the percent of the building that can be heated or cooled. A lot of times that's going to be 100%, but you may have a portion of your building that is unconditioned space. And so you can subtract that out by the percentage that you put here. You'll also see with different use types, there are some optional pieces. So in this case, the optional piece is percent that can be heated. In other cases, in other use types, you'll want to make sure to enter the required fields that are above that optional piece. And then if you have the information for the optional questions, it just helps you understand the energy use of your building a little bit better, but it's not required to comply with the ordinance. Here's another one, worship facility. Again, there's a lot of those in Oak Park that are over 10,000 square feet. There's going to be a little bit different questions here as well. This one has seating capacity included, as well as gross floor area for food prep. This one's trying to understand if there's a commercial kitchen and maybe the types of refrigerators or freezer units, as is asked in the optional questions below. K-12 school is also has a lot of different questions than the rest. This is asking if it's a high school or a K-12 or a elementary school. A lot of high schools have additional gym spaces or maybe even pools. So there's just different features associated with different types of buildings here. And again, months in use. Some schools are only used during the school year. A lot of schools are used all summer as well. So thinking about the total time that your building is used throughout the year and making sure you're accounting for all of the energy use over the full 12 months. A lot of buildings in Oak Park also have parking lots. And so you are going to answer some parking questions as well if your building has a parking lot. And the parking lot questions are really just getting at how energy is used outside of the gross square footage of your building. And so if you have an open parking lot, likely you have some lighting associated with that open parking lot. If it's just 3 or 4 spaces along the back of your building with a light that is mounted on your building itself, I would just not worry about these questions and put 0 here. But if you have a larger parking lot where there is, lighting poles with additional lighting, or if you have an enclosed lot or partially enclosed lot where there's maybe an elevator or partly conditioned space where it's heated and cooled in the lot. So that's what these questions are asking here. If you have a completely open parking lot size, you're just going to put the total square footage of the parking lot size here and put 0 in the next 2 columns because those are all required fields. If it's partially enclosed, or percentage of it is, then you'll put the square footage there and 0 in the other columns. But again, you have to fill all of these, but it's okay if some of them are 0. And then, I'm sorry, going back to the previous page, you're going to click add a property on the bottom once you're done. Once it's finished asking you all the questions about this primary use type and all the questions, you'll click add property. You'll come back to a home screen, and then it's going to ask if you'd like to add any additional use types. So a secondary use type will be from a drop-down box here. Add another type of use. And again, we're only going to do that if it's 5,000 square feet or more, or more than 25% of the building is a different use type. You don't need to break out things that are commonly associated with a particular building. So look in the glossary again about your building type, because you probably don't need to break out certain things. For example, in a multifamily building, multifamily properties, they assume there's probably possibly a little fitness center, a community room, maybe some small retail establishments that are under 5,000 square feet. And so you don't need to break those out into additional secondary use types. Those are kind of assumptions that Energy Star is already making as we go along. I did include a link to the property use types definitions on here at the bottom of this slide, if you'd like to click that when you have the deck after this session. Now that you've set up your property, you are never going to have to do that part again, unless you need to go back and fix some numbers, but that part stays with your portfolio manager account and with your building profile forever. In addition to this piece that I'm going to do next, after you set up your property, you're really only entering utility data annually from that point forward. But the next thing you want to do, and you don't want to forget this piece, is adding a unique building identifier so that the Village of Oak Park knows that you have complied with the ordinance. So you're going to add a standard ID. You can add that standard ID when you're setting up your property, or you can come back and add it later on this details tab of your property. You're going to add a unique building identifier. So you're going to click this unique identifiers. You're going to click edit, and then there'll be a drop-down box that it's all in alphabetical order of all the different unique building identifiers that Portfolio Manager has created for every municipality. And also there's this unique building identifier, a UBID number. So you'll click that, and then you're able to enter the number associated with your building here in the box. The Village of Oak Park has all of those numbers. They're associated with your building, and we can help you find that near the end of today's session, or send it out for folks to look that up afterwards. Once you've added your standard ID and you've set up your building profile, it is time to start entering your utility data. And if you have not collected your utility data yet, I'm going to explain how to do that on the next slide. If you are a building owner that has access to all of the bills, so if you're the owner and the occupier of that building, you likely don't need to do the steps I'm going to talk about next. If you have the bills or access to the bills that cover the entire building, all of the meters associated with the building, you can just enter your information from those bills that you have already. If you don't, if you have a building that has lots of tenants in a multifamily building, or you have other commercial tenants that you are not have access to their bills, there are ways to request aggregated building data so that you have the whole energy data for your building in one number. ComEd has an energy usage data system, or EUDS, that they have created in order to access the whole building energy data for your building. You have to fill out a request form on this page, and you submit that to their email address that's on this page as well. They then create an account for you and a profile. They'll email you a login and password in order to request your data. Once you get that login and password for your building, you're able to go in to that account and add any additional addresses associated with that building to make sure you're capturing all of the tenants and all of the utility data that goes with the building. So, for example, if your building is 180 North LaSalle, that's your main address, but also there's a range of addresses and people that might have bills at 182 North LaSalle and 184 North LaSalle. You can add the additional addresses, and then you'll go to this section to check the tenants, be able to verify the tenants, making sure everyone's accounted for all the bills associated with your building. And then you can submit a usage request. And the usage request you're going to request is energy data from January 1st, 2022 until December 21st, 2020. I'm sorry, December 31st, 2022, because we're reporting on the previous calendar year's data. Once you submit that request, it'll take a couple of minutes to calculate, but then it's going to give you one whole number for every month of the year for the total energy being used in your building in 2022. So when we get to the next step about adding a meter, you'll just add 1 meter and you'll add, this number for January, this number for February, this number for March, and then you'll have your full energy data for the building. For NICOR, you can also request whole building gas data. You might need to go back and forth over email just a little bit because they do not have a similar tool to ComEd. So we recommend that you email customercare@nicorgas.com. We can send additional instructions if you're not having any luck doing that this way. But what you want to send is a unit or tenant list associated with the building, all of the addresses that may have a gas account associated with your building. If you're able to see or access the meters or where the meters come in, sending them a list of the meter numbers is also really useful. And then they will send you back the data of amounts within your building, and you're able to enter those as well. So once you have collected your energy information, you're in your My Portfolio tab, and you have your Summary tab, your Details tab where you've added your standard ID, and now we're here on the Energy tab. On the Energy tab, you're going to click Add a Meter, and then you're going to select Electric Meter and Gas Meter. If you don't have natural gas at your building, you might have an all-electric building already. You just select electric and go to the next. It's going to ask you to click both of them to make sure that these are what you want to use. And then you're going to have to add the units. For natural gas, most people's bills come in therms. And so you're going to click therms for the units. And then for the electric grid meter, you'll select kilowatt hours or kWh. And then the date the meter became active. In both cases, you want to have it be the first date that you're entering a utility bill. So if you're collecting aggregated data from the utilities, your first date here is going to be January 1st, 2022. You will not enter something in the date that it became inactive because it's still active. If you're entering it from bills that you have, you're going to enter the first date of the first bill you're entering. And most bills from ComEd and NICOR don't start on the first and the end of the month. So if you're using bills, you're going to want to go back into maybe the bill that goes from December 15th, 2021 that spans that January 1st time period. And then similarly at the end of the year, you probably have a bill that goes from the middle of December into the middle of January 2023. And so you want to make sure to enter that bill as well if you're doing this from bills. So make sure you have the full 2022 calendar year covered. Once you go here, once you select your meters, you're able to get to the page where you can upload your utility data. And so what I mentioned here as well, you put the start date of the bill, the end date of the first bill, whether that's January 1st, and then to January 31st, 2022, and then you're going to click Add Another Entry. And so you're going to have 12 entries here for each meter to make sure you're covering the full 12 months of the ordinance requirement for 2022. If you have 2023 data and you want to keep going, go for it. You can keep adding more, but you need to have that full 2022 data there to comply with the ordinance. If you want to get techie, you can also download a template spreadsheet from Portfolio Manager here. You can download the spreadsheet, enter all your data, and then upload it back, and it'll fill all of these in for you. And if you want to get even more techie, the ComEd Energy Usage Data System, you can follow some instructions there, and it'll upload the information directly into Portfolio Manager for you. which is pretty cool. And then you want to make sure when you get to the next page that these are checked, that all of your utility data, and these are the meters. Click this box. These meters account for the total energy consumption at my building. And then you click apply selections and you are done with that part. The next thing that you want to do is add your water meter. So the water tab is the next tab over from energy. And similarly, you're going to add a meter here. If you have not received your water data from the Village of Oak Park yet, you can call the Water Finance Department and ask for the 2022 water data report to comply with the Energy and Water Benchmarking Ordinance. You'll get a great spreadsheet that comes in that might have 12 billing periods, or it might have 4 billing periods, depending on how your water is billed. It doesn't matter. You don't need 12 entries here. You just want to make sure that you're covering the full span of 2022. So when we've been helping some folks, they have a quarterly billing system. And so when you enter the data, it might be January 1st through March 31st is your first bill. And then you keep going and you might have four bills here. But you're going to collect that data from the utility and then jump in here to add a meter. Most people are going to have just an indoor meter. So their municipal supplied potable water, you have one meter here. If you have a separate meter for outdoor and you'd like to track that separately, you're able to do that here, but it's not necessary to do. And then you're going to click Get Started. Here you're going to again click that the meter is in use. The units here from the Village of Oak Park, on the bill, it's in thousands of gallons. So you're going to do the drop down box for units. You won't click 100 cubic feet. Instead, you'll click thousands of gallons and then enter the number of gallons on the bill. So it might say 13 on your bill, but it really means 13,000 gallons. So you just still want to enter 13 here because you've selected the units already for thousands of gallons. And then once you're done with setting up your meters and setting up all of your building, on this summary tab for your building, there's check for possible errors. This is a really great tool to see if you've missed anything, if you've maybe added any temporary values. A lot of places in Portfolio Manager allow you to click a temporary value checkbox just in case you want to come back and fix that later if you're not sure at the time. And then you can run the data quality checker from the time frame December 31st, 2022 is what you want to pick. And then it looks for any errors. Some of the common errors you might find are mismatched bills or missing bills, temporary or default values, less than 12 months of data, gaps in the data. That might mean that you maybe forgot a date. So maybe you put January 1st to January 30th instead of 31st, and then started your next month. It wants to make sure all dates are accounted for when you're entering your utility data. So make sure that those alerts help you find any of those gaps. Another one is GSF does not add up, or gross floor area mismatch. That means if you've added maybe some secondary use types and your total multifamily space is 10,000 square feet and your total office space is 5,000 square feet, but the gross square footage you entered when you set up your building was 16,000 square feet, it's saying like that doesn't add up, the math isn't right, and you need to fix something here. It's just a nice way to double check what you've done. And then the next step is to share your property with the Village of Oak Park. And you can actually set this up now, right when you are setting up your profile as well. You don't need to wait until you're done entering all of your data. Oak Park is not going to look at this until after December 31st of this year. So you can set up your share request anytime if it helps you to get that done quicker. The first thing you need to do to share your data to the Village of Oak Park, or to share your data with another colleague or coworker that's working on this with you, is you go up here to contacts at the top of your screen and you're adding a contact, and then we'll share a property. To add a contact, you're going to look up the username, or you can look up the name, and you're going to look for VOP, or Village of Oak Park Benchmarking Team, or Oak Park Community is the username. You send a connect to request once they come up in the search, and then you will be connected to them pretty quickly. I think that there's Oak Park has set it up to be an automatic accepting of that. If you're looking for a colleague or friend, you can also look up their username or their name and connect with them as well, so that you can share a property between each other and work on it together. If you are still awaiting those requests coming in, if you go up to the top under notifications, you may have a notification that someone else has sent you a share request, or that the Oak Park has accepted your request. Those notifications come up here. You have to accept someone else's request as well before you can share data with them. Once you have created that contact and that share, you're going to go to this next screen, which is the sharing tab here. You can select the properties that you're going to share. If that's one property or multiple, you can select them all here. Then you're going to select the people you're sharing it to. So you're going to select, you might have a bunch of contacts here, but you're going to select the Village of Oak Park benchmarking team or Oak Park community. And then for Oak Park, you're going to select personalized sharing and exchange data, and then hit continue. If you're sharing it with someone else that you work with, this is not the selection you'll make. There's another selection about permissions called bulk sharing, and you'll select that option instead for a personal connection. Once you get to that page, this is the different exchange data that you're going to set the permissions for the Village of Oak Park benchmarking team. You're going to give them read-only access to the property information, the energy meters, and then you're going to select none for recognition. It's going to ask you a couple of other things. You're going to select no to share forward, and then you need to, at the end, click this button, share properties, for it to be complete. Make sure to do that, or it hasn't been fully shared with Oak Park. And then you are done. So this is our final checklist. You are creating your portfolio manager account, your personal account. You're adding your general property details. You're adding that primary and secondary use type details, making sure to add that standard ID and the UBID number provided by the Village of Oak Park. You're adding your 12 months of electric or gas data from the 1st to the 31st of 2022 for this reporting period. Your 12 months of water data. You're going to run the data quality checker. You're going to share your property data with the Village of Oak Park benchmarking team. And then you're going to pat yourself on the back because you have benchmarked your property and you're awesome. And so you've done all of the things, and you can submit and wait until next year, or wait for any questions that come back from Oak Park at the end of the year if they're looking at your data and have any questions. There's also a number of helpful resources here to share additional information, property data collection worksheets. So if you haven't gotten started, or you're not sure what your property use type is, or what data you're going to need to collect before you jump into Portfolio Manager, you can download data collection worksheets for all 80 different use types that Portfolio Manager tracks here, and understand which questions you're going to be asked. Collect that data from the people at your building that might know the answers before you get started. Here's that glossary of terms that I talked about earlier. There's additional training documents that Portfolio Manager provides if you're just getting started using the tool, if you'd like more training. There's also some really cool Energy Star tools for your home. So you're doing this for the building that you manage or own, but you can also use Energy Star to track your energy use at your house. So you can check that out there for personal use. And then there's some other information on downloading data from ComEd for your use as well. I'm just going to talk briefly about some other things you might be interested in as you continue on your energy journey. As I mentioned before, the Village of Oak Park is collecting energy and water data for tracking over time. The requirement is not to make improvements to the energy use, but you may see that there's some things that you'd like to do if you're not happy with the score that you see at the end. So one thing that the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance offers, if you have a building operator or facility manager that would be interested in some additional training, there's a really cool program called the Building Operator Certification Program. It's been running for a long time, and it helps to train maintenance staff on efficient operations of the building. It's a 3-month training, it's 60 hours of classroom time, and you earn a certification at the end of the program, which is really, really great. It covers operations of HVAC equipment, how to benchmark energy performance, efficient lighting, HVAC controls, indoor air quality assistance, some opportunities for low-cost improvements to the building, and then a number of other topics as well. But it's a really great class. If you have someone that's maybe interested in this, the 2024 training schedule will be posted in October, or you can contact the BOC staff at MIA. Also, the Illinois Green Alliance, where I work, we just launched a new program called the Building Energy Resource Hub. And the Building Energy Resource Hub is providing some industry resources for owners and managers and contractors. There's some really great tools and resources here, and we're still building this out over the next coming years. There's some really great playbooks, technology primers, how to finance different projects, how to find a service provider, maybe check out some case studies. And there's an Ask an Expert section where you can ask questions as well. We have some upcoming trainings, including on October 3rd about financing projects, and another energy benchmarking class on October 25th, if you have someone interested in that. And then that website for that resource is buildinghub.energy. And you can check that out and check out some of those tools. And now I think we're going to jump into the benchmarking data jam portion. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and check out the chat for the questions that have come in. And then hopefully we'll have time to break out into rooms and answer individual questions as well. So thank you for listening to this part. This part will all be available in a recording afterwards for you to review. And now I am going to stop sharing. All right. I see a lot of questions that have come into the chat, but I'm not sure, Allison, if you guys have already answered a few of them, or if there's some that I could still catch that would be helpful to everybody.
Yeah, I actually thought a few of them might be helpful for others. So the very first one, I believe, was from Jean or Jeannie. I apologize that I don't know how to pronounce your name. Who has
Okay,
the I've
figured that out and moved on.
Okay. I do think it's a good question, but so she had asked what date should you use for like when you're setting up the building property itself, because there's kind of multiple dates, and it says current as of, and so I believe you should be using today's date for that. And so I just wanted to verify, Katie, that that is correct, because that's what I told her.
Sure. I would put current as of the first date that you're starting to put in energy data. So if you're,
oh, go ahead.
So if the first date of the first bill you're putting in and how we're complying with the ordinance is January 1st, 2022, I think you put it in current as of that date would be the most useful. But if you're putting in data, I mean, you can put in as much data as you want. You could go back to 2019 or 2018 if you have access to that and put in the data. So you want to put in current as of whenever the first utility data you're putting in. You can put something else, but portfolio manager is probably going to keep telling you there's mismatch between dates of some things in there. So
Katie, just to clarify, that would be the same for, because I know you have to put in that first date for the date that the meter started, but this is the date of the like property information. So you're saying those dates need to match? Because I was saying the property information should be today's date. Did you see the she sent a picture at 10:34 that shows it.
Oh.
And it says current as of, it's like the property use detail. And so I felt like that should be today's date because it's current.
Yep, you can put it in as today's date. I think that's fine. If it gives you an error, I think the best way to fix it is to just go back to the January 1st date. So if portfolio manager is telling you that there's a mismatch later on when you're checking the data, you could go back to that. But today, I think today's date's fine for that. Sorry, I didn't see what exact screen you were looking at. I see it now.
Not a problem. And then just for everyone else's benefit, if you happen to see that picture in the chat, you'll see there's a lot of red details, and that's because portfolio manager is flagging a potential error. It looks like most of that is because of the date format just did not include the full year. So just as a FYI, you want to make sure that you're including the full year 2000 whatever every time you put in a date. Otherwise, you're going to get that error message.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was another question actually that was further up in the chat about, I think, the email address that's used for the portfolio manager account. And they were asking, can the email address be changed in the future? I think this is really important. So Katie, I'm sure you have an answer for that.
Yes, it can be, but it is your personal login to Portfolio Manager. So it's whatever email address that you want to use to log into Portfolio Manager. So if that's your Gmail address, it's your Gmail address. If it's your work address, that's great. If it's a more general email account for your organization, I just think make sure that someone can check that inbox, and maybe you're all sharing that that email address, username, and login. And that's okay, but you want to make sure it's an inbox you can check. You can always change it later. That's no big deal, but it's related to you personally more than the building.
Right. So multiple people can access the building over time. It's really just like your account. So yes, like you may be setting up the building this one time, but you can give other people access later if they set up a portfolio manager account using their own email address.
Right. Yep.
And then let's see, there was one other thing that I wanted to make sure I asked before we move on. Oh, that's what it was. So for the Village of Oak Park people that are on here, specifically Abby, Marcella, there's a couple people in the chat who have given their addresses so that they can get their BU ID. And so I just wanted to make sure to flag that for you so that you can, or sorry, you bid. I said BU ID. I wanted to flag that for you all so that you could get those numbers to them.
Looking that up now.
Great. Okay. And then Katie, I'm just kind of monitoring the chat for you. Apologies if this is
no, thank you. I couldn't see the chat while I was sharing screen. So
right. Let's see. So I'm just going to keep going in order. So we've got that. Yes, the village has the U bids. Okay. Rachel's iPhone says, I got an error when I put in today's date. It seems to want the January 1 day. And I'm wondering if, Rachel, you're talking about the utility meter data and not the building data, but let's just look at that really quickly if you don't mind. And
feel
you're
free to
on your
unmute and ask. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So Rachel, if you can unmute, so potentially we can answer your question. And apologies if your name isn't actually Rachel, it's showing up as Rachel's iPhone on the screen.
Hi. Yeah,
Thank you.
It was a couple of days ago when I was working on this and I looked for data and it didn't show me anything. And it said because the current date, was something in 2023 and I wanted to see 2022. So I can't remember exactly because I went in and just sort of shot around in the dark and I fixed it myself, but it basically wanted me to say January 1st, 2022.
Yeah, I think that is right. I think it does give you an error if you're putting in utility data from a previous year and then you're saying the detail or the details of the building are current as of today, then it's wondering, well, what were they last year?
Right.
And so I think you have to put it in the past and not today, but it can be farther in the past. If your building was built in 1970, and the details are the same, then you can put 1970 as long as it's covering the year that the utility information is there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But I do think it defaults, like when you click in there, it does want to put today's date because it's trying to default to put a date in there for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the troubleshooting. Appreciate it. I see a question here from Oak Park Temple. Hi, Oak Park Temple. I didn't make it to your tour the other day, but I was really excited about your project.
We're very
Um,
excited, and it sounds like we're tracking independently as part of this pilot program a lot of the data that you're looking for.
Yes.
So that was my thing is I'm trying not to reinvent the wheel and how we can share data, but we can talk
Yeah.
offline now that
Yep,
we've
I
made
can
the
help.
introduction.
I can help you afterwards. You will probably have to do this as well, but we can probably make the comment data just automatically go into this other account so that you don't have to do extra work.
So we've made the connection. I think you have my email. Do you want to just shoot me an email and we don't have to take up everybody else's time? Sorry.
Cool. No,
Thank
you're
you for
good.
checking.
This
Sorry.
is for everybody. So, I think a lot of people's answers, like answering people's questions, it might be a similar issue. If you're tracking building data for another thing, you still are going to have to do it here too, but you might be able to sidestep some items and not have to fully duplicate everything.
And Katie, anytime Katie and Allison, if either of you would like to come tour, come on.
Oh my gosh, I would love to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard
just
such interesting things about the project.
email me and then we can set up a time.
Oh, thank
Yes.
you.
Maybe we can all come. You guys have very high,
can.
very high efficiency HVAC pilot project with ComEd, which is really cool.
And it's reducing our obviously our carbon footprint is substantially reduced, but from the village standpoint, the water usage and everything, because we were a water boiler. So we should have a whole lot of data that we're going to be able to track out as far as the reduction, I hope, in water, obviously gas emissions, all those things, and electrical usage.
Very cool.
I see a question from, I apologize, but I think this is a couple of people have asked me kind of privately, not in the group chat, but I also see this in the group chat. How long does it normally take the village to assign you a UBID number? Marcella got back to me and said that hopefully by next week. I just want to make sure that Marcella feels confident that that's the correct response for everyone before I promise that.
Yeah, so most of the UBITs have been assigned, but some folks are they weren't on the original list. So we are working on that. We should have it for you next week.
Great. Wonderful. And then I see one other question from, I think, Jean. How do I get out of the water bill portal? So kind of in the middle of the page, there's a couple of different like tabs, just like your, your internet browser may have. And there should be one that says energy and one that says water and one that says, I think, like property details or something. And if you're probably in the water tab, and so you said that you wanted to get back to the electricity tab, so then you would go to the energy tab and it should be on there. Katie, tell me if I'm mischaracterizing that.
I think that sounds right, but iPhone 2, if you want to unmute, and are you in the water bill portal on the Oak Park site, or are you in the water bill entry in Portfolio Manager? I don't know if you can unmute. I can try and ask you to unmute. Let's see.
I'm in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. It says manage bills, and I entered congratulations, you successfully updated your bills. And then the meter selection, and then it's the monthly entries. And in the middle of the screen on the right, it just says delete another entry, learn how to copy and paste, delete this meter. I could upload from the bulk meter, but I didn't do that. And on the lower right, I go to save.
Yep.
Bill, and I keep just cycling right back to the water bills.
It's kind of, that part is a little bit dumb. So you hit save, and then if you go back up into the corner and just click Energy Star Portfolio Manager again, it's going to take you back out to your main account, and you have to click into your building again. I don't know why it does that. I wish it had.
Up at the right, it just says welcome Bon Villa, account settings, notifications, Energy Star notifications.
Oh, I'm sorry, on the left. Just click the logo Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and it'll take you back home.
Oh, I would have never clicked on that.
I know.
I didn't grow up with this thing in my hand. Okay, thank you. I'm
Cool.
now to the my portfolio.
Great.
Water, and then we do electric, and there, where do we put gas?
In the energy meter where it says add a meter, you're gonna add gas. You can add natural gas and electric there.
On the dashboard or?
Mhm. I can
Mark
show you. I can share my screen again and navigate
portfolio.
around. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, probably.
Sure.
Oops.
Um,
Let's see.
can you guys see my screen again?
I can. My portfolio, yes.
Okay. So I have a lot of
Yes.
properties that people have shared with me. Don't mind all of this stuff.
I can't see it anyway. Don't worry. Oh, my
Um,
property. So I go to my property.
Yep. So you find it up here. Sorry. I'm just going to click on this one. I don't know what this is. I think this might be a Salvation Army building that I helped a long time ago. But you have the energy tab here.
I see it. Yep. Okay.
So in add a meter.
Okay.
Oh shoot. I don't have permission on that one.
Oh, and I
So bas-
see, you know what? I already see it. I see electric and the natural gas. So I probably can
Yep.
keep going forward.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. How about
Com-
everybody else? Any other questions in the chat, or does anyone else want to unmute and ask
I-
something or raise your hand?
There is one question in the chat. I think this is a great idea. Ken, who I think is with the Housing Authority, asked if we can go through the share properties piece again.
Let me find a property that I have actual access to edit.
Hello, this is Will. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a question, and that was actually Ken's question because I'm in his ID. But can you go through actually adding the village so we could share that information as well?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep,
thank
I
you.
can do that. So, Marcel, I hope this is okay. I'm showing the Oak Park River Forest Garage because I was helping with this one before.
Go for it.
Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is add contacts up here. So when you're doing the sharing, the first thing you need to do is add the person you want to share with. So can you see my cursor up here by contacts? And then you click add new contacts or connections.
Hi, sorry.
And then I'm going to type in VOP marketing team and hope that it hasn't been shared already. We'll see. So I'm searching and it's going to come up with this connection. And so I click connect and it says, I agree to my provider's terms of use. Yes. If you want to see those terms of use, you can put some things here and then you click send connection request. And then it'll be a green box at the top that says you have successfully sent a connection. When you're when the Village of Oak Park benchmarking team has accepted your request, you'll be able to share properties and authorize this provider to begin exchanging data. So there's your kind of notification bar.
Thank you.
Then I go up here to notifications and I can see, did they accept yet? I can look and see if that's going on. I have an outgoing request, which is to them, but I don't have a notice that it's been accepted yet. So, you know, that'll happen here in a second. And then you go back to your sharing tab here. And that's when you can share a property. So you select the property you want to share. You'll have your list come up. You might just have the one, but you can click the boxes on the side and select who you're sharing with. And then click apply selection. And then you're going to select the Village of Oak Park team from here. When it shows up, it'll be alphabetical. So it'll be way down here somewhere.
Okay.
And then you're going to click this one here, which is the personalized sharing data. This bottom one. If
Oh,
you're
the bulk one
if you're
that's the
trying to
bulk-
connect to a friend
not the-
or a coworker,
bulk
you're gonna click bulk sharing, and then you can give someone full access or read-only permissions. So you can do that up here as well. If you're trying to share with someone else, but you'll click this one to share with Oak Park. Does that make sense?
Yes, I got it. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
You're welcome. I can't click the next screen because there's some other data, but we'll send those instructions of what to click next on those next screens as a follow-up email too. Does anyone else have questions that I can help with?
There's one in the chat. So where exactly do they put their UBID number?
Oh, that's great. Great question. I'm going to jump into Holly Court Garage. So you're in a particular building again, and then you click on the details tab. And then it's here under unique identifiers on the details tab. It also kind of has the rest of it's kind of your main dashboard. Here's your property information, all your different use types you've set up, kind of an overview of your square footage. And then down here is this unique identifier. So you'll click edit. And then scroll a little bit to standard IDs. And you're going to scroll all the way down because it's in the UBID, unique building identifier, and then paste the number here that you get from Oak Park and hit save. And then that saves it there forever. You don't have to ever do that again. Does that make sense? David Bartel, you can unmute if you'd like.
Okay, so my property, or the property I'm representing, is a mixed-use property, commercial first floor, apartments second floor. So when I've entered that information in, and on my Energy Star details tab, it has a red exclamation point. Is that going to be an issue, or is that just warning me that I've got two different types?
It's probably an issue. If you go to there's a lot of red exclamation points on this one that I don't remember what happened here. But if you go to your details tab, it'll probably tell you like where the exclamation point.
Well, it says under, it has it under property type, self-selected mixed use property type portfolio manager calculated as office.
Okay. I had this happen to me yesterday too. I don't know why the portfolio manager is doing that. So I can follow up with you and ask some of my building engineering friends in my office to find out why it's doing that. I had a similar issue yesterday where I put in mixed use and then it told me that it should be other. And so when I changed it to other, then the exclamation point went away, but I don't know if that was really what I wanted it to do. So we can chat offline and figure that out, or maybe you could share your screen if you want to stay on for a minute and I can try and figure that out. Can you tell me a little bit more about the two different property use types that you have and how much square footage is each?
Okay, so the whole building's a roughly 18,500 square feet. The office or commercial space on the bottom is 10,800, and then apartments on the top level, which is about 7,900 square feet. Right. So that's it, and that's the two types I have in there of use for the building. So I don't know exactly.
It's telling you instead of office, it should be what?
No, it's self-selected mixed use, but it says portfolio manager calculated office.
Okay. Is it primarily used as different people's office spaces?
Well, it's commercials. It's like half a dozen different commercial spaces on the first floor. It's a laundry, sign company, barbershop. It's a mixed bag. None of them which are over 5,000 square feet, so they don't qualify as their own.
Right.
But it's, roughly the building is split between the two different uses, almost not quite evenly. It's a little bit more office or commercial space than residential space.
How much square footage is the laundry?
I'd have to look that up, but it's only like 2,000 or 3,000 square feet.
That one I may, even though it's less than 5,000 square feet, I may suggest breaking that out so that it's asking you some questions about how many dryers and how many washers, because that seems like it's a higher energy use space than maybe some of the other uses on that floor. But I'm happy to chat with you a little bit more to figure that out, but it might make sense to call the other part office, whatever square footage is that, and then pull out that 2,000 or 3,000 square feet as laundry, just to give you a better sense of the energy use at your building. 'Cause I'm guessing
Okay.
the rest of the office doesn't have a bunch of washers and dryers.
Oh, no, it's,
Right.
yeah, it's more, more sedate, but that's, that's the thing is partly too, and I
Mhm.
didn't know, without going into a lot of details, it's hard to say when it asks like operating hours. Well, each commercial space has their own operating hours. So what do you put in?
Right.
So I just chose, let the system calculate, which I'm sure is somewhat wrong, but that's really the best I could do at
Yeah.
this point.
I think in situations like that where there's a lot of different small retail on the first floor, figuring out kind of an average makes the most sense of like when are most of them open, and what is the general hours per day, and calculating that. And that's probably going to be approximate. I think for your situation, pulling out the laundry separately, even though it's not the rule of thumb of over 5,000, I think it'll make sense for your case because it's just a higher energy use space.
Well, the laundromat's 1,300 square feet. So less than 10% of the entire building.
Okay. Let me think about that one for a minute. You're stumping me for a second, David, but I'm going to figure it out. I almost wonder if, because the rest is multifamily, if you include the laundry into the multifamily square footage, because then it's going to ask you about washers and dryers. And you could put the number of washers and dryers there.
Okay, I just find that I'm being a bit intrusive on the businesses. It's not my business. I'm just, well, the building owner is just the landlord.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think for this, you're looking at how, and this is for everybody, you're looking to understand the total energy use for the whole building. So you're not trying to separate out anybody's, and portfolio manager isn't going to do that necessarily. But you want to understand how much energy is being used in the whole, like inside all the walls, and is that good or average or not great? And so it might, if you didn't put in those number of laundry units that exist in that space, it's probably going to tell you your energy looks pretty bad given your square footage because you have all that extra equipment that's not being accounted for. But we can chat more and figure it out, but you won't be pulling out that person's information separately. It'll still be included in the full scope of the building data, if that makes sense.
well, that makes sense from when Oak Park looks at the data. It doesn't make sense from the fact that I have to go collect not personal, but essentially trade data from my tenant.
Are you collecting the whole building energy use data from ComEd, from that energy usage data system? Or are you trying to? Yeah.
No, I'm collecting it as a building aggregate, and the NICOR, they're being, I think, having to come up with meter numbers or something like that is like, okay, that's again, since each tenant has their own meter, I have to,
yeah,
that's making the data collection kind of onerous.
Yeah.
The Village of Oak Park been very, very nice and simple.
Yes.
Very glad about that.
Yes, NICOR is still figuring their stuff out there, but I think you could try just sending the tenant and the tenant numbers and addresses without the meter numbers first and see what they give you for NICOR. If they say you need the meter numbers, you could go back and do that if it's hard to access or get to. I know someone I was talking to yesterday, all of the meters are like 10 feet in the air for the gas, and so they couldn't see them readily. So they were going to try the unit numbers first. But again, with collecting it from ComEd or collecting it from NICOR, the idea is to is to still have it be anonymous so that it's aggregated into that one number for the whole building. So you still wouldn't be trying to figure out how much that individual tenant is using, and you wouldn't be able to know that from the data they're giving you.
Yes, that is certainly true. I guess in theory, though, actually from the water standpoint, I do know because that meter, that's a separate meter and I have that separate meter information. But for NICOR and ComEd, I have no idea which unit is using more electricity than the other one.
Right. Well, let me ask one of the folks in my office about your situation, and I will get back to you about that, about how to break that out in the right way. And I will try and do that before the end of the week.
All right, thank you.
I hope that was helpful for other people too, as they have nuanced things, but I think a lot of this is, understanding how the energy is being calculated and used is hopefully helpful context for folks.
Right. Yeah, Katie, I'm just wondering also, I put a couple things in the chat just to kind of highlight, first of all, I think that this is, the bulk of what we wanted to get through today. And right now we're just answering individual questions. And so if people feel done, you can drop off. You don't have to, but you can. And then if you feel like at some point you may want some additional assistance, that we will be offering some technical assistance more like one-on-one later if that's something that you're interested in. Katie, I don't know if you want to go into any details on that. I just kind of threw this at you, but we talked a little bit yesterday about what we might do in the future, just in case people can't do this today or feel like they can't get to it until later.
Yep. I think once you're in the system and trying to settle this up, you might come up with some other questions. So I'm going to share with Marcella and Abby from the Village of Oak Park some kind of office hours times to set up with me if you'd like to go into detail a little bit further. I'm also going to share my email in the chat. So if you want to chat with me or one of my volunteers with Illinois Green Alliance, one of us could help you out on a one-on-one basis as well. We still have till December 31st. So there's still lots of time. And I think you guys are being very proactive by being here and getting stuff figured out today, but I'd like to help you as soon as possible so you feel like you've checked this off the list, but we have some time to figure it out if there's still some confusing pieces of your property. But I'm happy to stay on. I know this is scheduled until 1, so I can answer questions as long as people want to stay. So feel free and stay and ask and we'll figure it out. But I'm here until you guys are done.
Okay. So I'm trying to add the Village of Oak Park so I could share my information to them. So are they automatically going to populate?
Are you talking about the UBID number?
No, I think he's talking about the that they need to reply to like the quote unquote friend request.
Yes.
Got it. Marcella or Abby, can you speak to how that happens? Or are you in Portfolio Manager and can accept those requests?
I am in, and so I will accept them now. So, but I didn't see one from Ken Southward.
Well, it's actually will be by. Oh, I haven't done it yet.
Oh, okay.
Put your information as far as your contact information. Correct.
Yeah. So you're looking for Oak Park Community. That's the username for the benchmarking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marcella, just remind me what it's called again. Oak Park Community.
It's just that's the username.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's oh, that's right. Or VOP benchmarking team. Perfect, Katie. I was like, yeah, I thought we used something a little bit different yesterday. So
I think one is the username and one is the name. And so if you put one or the other in, you should find it. Did you find it, Ken?
Oh yeah, I'm still looking for it.
Okay. Dominique, Moses, Victor. I see your names, but you can more than welcome to ask a question if you'd like. And David, if you have more, go for it. Would it be helpful if I shared my screen again and talked through any of the portions that I went through in the deck that were a little more complicated?
Yeah, this as well. Yeah, I can't find the Oak Park communities.
Are you able to share your screen, Ken? Maybe I can help you navigate it.
Sure. Let's see. Okay. Do you see anything yet, or?
Not yet.
Hmm.
Do you see this share screen button down
Yeah.
at the bottom? Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
All right, so can you see the screen, or?
I could for a second, but now there's a pop-up window over it.
Oh,
There you go. Oh, almost.
Yeah, it was probably like the Zoom window that was over it. So yeah, if he just goes back to, ooh, I like your background.
Me too.
okay, so
Yeah.
that better?
There we
Yes.
go.
Okay, so,
Oh, so go over, click that button that says add new contacts, the blue button. There you go. And now put the name there. In the name top up there, VOP
Oh, it's-
benchmarking team. Oh, benchmarking should be one word, just so that it doesn't mess that up. And then team, yeah. It'll probably still find it.
okay,
And then search, and it should pop up. There you go. And then click
Okay.
connect. And then
Okay.
click the yep, that little box. Awesome.
okay,
And so now if you go to sharing, that tab at the top there, once Marcella accepts that request, you can go in. So you can click share right there. Share, edit, property.
and then it'll be,
It'll pop up in that next section there in a second, but yep. And I think we just need to wait a
Whoa.
second. So it'll pop, see that second thing down where it says select people accounts, right below where you selected the properties.
Right,
That VOP benchmarking team should show up there in a
just
minute.
go up here and
once-
then I'll be able to complete this.
Yep, yep.
Okay, one other thing real quick, as far as sharing, I think I have my organization that I need to add, they send me a request already. Where would I go for that?
So you can go up to notifications at the top. You see where there's like a little red. Just right where, yep. Where it says notifications, there's a little red dot next to it. Yep.
Oh,
Oh, it tried to get rid of your share. Sorry about that. Are you able to share your screen again quick?
oh, yeah, sorry.
So maybe incoming requests, outgoing requests, and then notices. So you say someone tried to share it with you already?
Yeah,
If you click the exclamation, that usually pops the screen up that,
oh.
oh,
hmm.
It doesn't look like you have any incoming
Okay,
requests, so maybe you might have to send them a share request instead.
yeah, I will, okay,
So you could do the same thing where it's up at the top where you did contacts. You can click contacts and then click add a new contact.
Okay, so there they are. Okay, so it's actually, let's see. Oh, it's under organizations. That's why. So it's here.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's,
And then
I
you
know
want
I
to
seen it, so I would just add them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm,
do I need to,
I think you can press cancel. I don't think you wanted to do that.
so if I wanted to go ahead and accept,
I think that it looks like that's already accepted because it's already
okay,
one of your contacts. And it looks like Oak Park is there now too. If you want to go back to sharing, and you can do that.
okay.
So you can select your properties.
But they should actually be here, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure how organizations show up there versus individuals. So let me find that out for you.
Okay,
Yeah, you can select your properties up there again, your 3 that you wanted to.
Yep. Okay, now,
And then the
this
bottom
was-
button, personalized sharing. Yep.
and this would only be if I wanted to share them for more than one user, correct? I mean, more than one person.
Yeah, if you wanted to share with someone else at Oak Park RC,
Mhm.
you'd pick that other button.
Okay, okay,
And so you're gonna click exchange data, the farthest left button, or the farthest left like radio button,
oh.
just
Uh,
down at the bottom. There's like these little radio buttons where it says exchange data.
oh, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, you can click all 3 of those. And then you want read-only access.
Right,
And then no to that question. Yep. And it'll have you do that for each of them.
okay. Should I just close this window out then, once I hit this? It'll pop. Okay.
And have you added any meter data yet?
Well,
Okay.
you know, the thing of it is that, I was going to, if you could see here, this is what ComEd sent me. So I didn't know if I needed to put all these meter numbers with these amounts,
Hmm.
because that's a whole lot of data I gotta put, so. As you could see,
Are these so you have a multifamily building?
yes,
And are these the bills that are like the common area bills maybe?
no,
For the
these are,
building versus,
actually just the, activity bills for this particular account number, which is our
Okay.
number.
I think what you probably want to do is set up an account with that energy usage data system that I talked about to pull like the aggregate data, and it's just going to give you one number for all the accounts for each month of the year. It'll be a lot easier to do.
Right, so how did you do that again?
I can share my screen and show you again.
Okay, so.
So on, I'll put this in the chat too. So on this page, this is where you'll pull the whole building data. And David, you'll do this too if you haven't. Where on this screen, there's an enrollment form and it's a PDF. You'll fill this out that you're the property manager and you're authorized to access data.
Mhm.
And then you submit it back to this email address here.
Got it.
And within 1 or 2 days, you should get an email back from this email address that gives
Right.
you the login information to your account.
Okay,
And so then you can either log in straight from that email, or you can go back to this page and click login. And then this guide down here at the bottom has some really helpful steps of how to set it up to make sure that you're pulling all of the tenant data associated with that building into the property. So you might, if your building is a range of addresses, you'll add all the additional addresses associated with your building. There'll be a button to verify tenants. And so you can go through and make sure all of the tenants, like the unit numbers, are accounted for.
mhm,
Don't worry about the names associated with the units. You just want to make sure that all the units are there, because you're looking at 2022 data anyways, which some units may have changed, or some tenant names may have changed.
right,
And then you'll submit a usage request, and it'll aggregate and add up all of the data for everyone's bills from January associated with the building and give you one number. And same for February, March, April, May. It'll give you 12 numbers, which are just the full amount of data used at the building. And that's how you'll enter it into Portfolio Manager.
okay, you'll probably just have to enter 12 entries as opposed to all of
Yep.
those. Okay,
Yes. So then you don't have to
Oh.
deal with all those numbers on your other spreadsheets.
what is the difference between going to that user data at ComEd.com versus what we sent out for activity for ComEd? Why is,
I think what it likely is it may not cover all of the tenants, all of the utility bills within the building.
Mhm.
But also it's just gonna be a lot easier for you to enter than that other report you have. That may be all of the data, and if you want to do it that way, you can, but this system is a lot easier, and you can connect it straight to Portfolio Manager, so it'll keep putting the electricity data in there at the end of every month. Like, so next year when you have to report 2023, it'll all already be in there for you.
okay, so I've got to go to building manager user guide and this one, correct?
This form and then this user guide are going to help you out a bunch, and it's pretty great, and I'm happy to help if you get your login and you're in that system and you want to schedule some one-on-one time with me and share a screen again. I can show you how to do that.
Okay, all right, sounds good, Katie. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that it doesn't exist for every utility, but ComEd's got it figured out here.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Katie.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have questions on that? Now that I've gone over that stuff a little bit too.
I just kind of have a general question.
Sure.
Since we're all new to this website, and fortunate for us, we only managed the property for part of the year last year, so it's pretty easy to enter in the water, the gas, and the electric, and then
Mhm.
our bill information. Am I missing anything, or could somebody peek to make sure I'm good to go?
Yeah, I'm happy to check work too. So, if you want, I can, in that share request too, you can share read-only access with me. Here's my username. Or my name is Katie Kaluzny. That's why there's so many buildings in my profile when you were looking at my, account, because these are all people that have shared their building with me over time for me to check their work.
So do I use Katie or do I use KK?
If you're doing the sharing,
Share, let's see.
can you still see my screen? Am I still sharing?
Oh, I was reading the other part. Let's see. I'm in sharing myself, yes.
So you want me to show up here. And so to do that, you need to add me under contacts.
Share or edit to a property share utility. Let's
So-
see. Your
so for-
contact, okay.
So up here where it says contacts. Can you see my
Uh,
screen?
Kinda, sorta.
So at the very
I-
top of the page.
Search existing contacts. Would you be in that one? No.
Nope, you're gonna want to add new contact.
Oh, add a new contact. Here I go.
Mhm. And
Okay,
then you can type my name, Katie Kaluzny, in the name, or you can type K Kaluzny in username. hopefully I would show up one of those places. And then, if you want, you can give me read-only access, at the bottom, and I'm happy to help.
I don't
Or we can
care.
schedule other time, anytime.
I don't think you'll, organization, what do I
You
put
just-
for that?
You don't have to fill it all in. You can just fill in one thing and press search.
And oh. 0 results found. Let's see for Katie. KK.
I'm typing it in here. Does it look like this when you're typing it?
Oops.
Anybody that is on here that's still listening, you can do this too. I'm happy to help. So you can also
see.
connect with me if you want.
No, it just says search results, your search criteria, name, organization, username. Let's see if I go to sharing, share to a property, select people, select property, choose permission.
Yeah, hey Katie, so when you do put in that name and I copy and paste it, it shows up as 0 results found. If you do the KKALUZY, that one?
Oh, does it? Oh. Well, maybe just do my name then.
I'll try the other one, yeah.
If you do my name, hopefully that shows up, except that I'm already logged in as myself. So I don't know if that'll work if I search for me.
Oh yeah, I did it. If you put it under Katie and then her last name, it
Mhm.
shows up and I'll connect.
Cool.
Your search queries. Let's see. My shared properties. Oh yeah, your contacts.
Okay, Katie, so I sent you a
Cool.
request as well, so you should be able to see it.
Here you go.
All right.
Accept.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much. I'm logging out. Have a great day.
Cool. Thanks, Ken.
All right.
Thank you.
What's your name again? I'm sorry, iPhone 2. I forgot your name.
Jeannie?
Jeannie, that's right. I'm not sure if you're on the same screen as me. I think you might be on the sharing tab. And I think I want you up here on contacts.
You know what? I have to go. I keep going back and forth.
Okay.
That's part of my problem. I could use another device. Let's see, Mike. When I go to sharing.
So I won't be there in sharing yet unless you add me as a contact. So
sharing with your utility or service, download a sharing, edit access to a property. Oh, your contacts. But then I go to add, search existing contacts. No, I need to add a new contact.
yes.
Under my name or username, I should add your name.
Go to name and then type KATIE space KALUZNY.
N or M?
N as in Nancy.
Oh, that's part of us old people's eyes problem. Okay.
And then search. Does it find me?
Yeah, it looks like it. Associate Director with USGBC.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Connect.
Yep, connect, and then I'll get this notification up here. Jeannie, here you are.
Yeah. Cool. Right. I don't typically do this.
No, don't worry. I didn't used to do this either. So now if you go to sharing, if you go back to that place where you were on the sharing tab and you click share a property, then you can select the property. You can select my name under people, and then under bulk sharing, you want to send read-only access, and then you can share, and I can look at the property with you if you ever call or email with me. I can see what's going on and check your work.
So select the property.
Mhm.
You went too fast.
I'm sorry, select property
Yep.
and then find me in the select people. I should be in there now.
State form. No, did I go to, let's see, share, select property, right? Oh, here I am. I see your name here.
Yep.
Oh, continue. Oh, select the property. Oh, I went to my portfolio just like that. Let's see, share. Okay. Select property or select people?
Select the
okay,
property
okay.
first that you want to share with me.
Yep, I
So,
see it. Okay.
Yep.
And then,
And then select people. You can select my name.
oh, did you go back to get to that or?
No, I said, so select property was here. You can select whatever one
Oh,
is
yep.
yours, right?
Oops.
And then
Yeah.
you're back on this page. And so you want to select my name in this number 2.
Apply selection.
Mhm.
Huh. Doesn't want to take the applied selection. And I clicked.
You click the checkbox over here.
Yep. And apply selection. Oh, here we go.
Mhm.
And your name.
Mhm.
And then continue.
No, choose permissions first right here. Do you
Oh,
see the
it
next?
says the property to share. It keeps acting like it doesn't know I'm clicking
Mhm.
Mon Villa.
Are you able to share your screen or are you doing it from your phone?
I'm doing it. I'm chatting on my phone and I'm doing it on my screen. So select property.
Mhm.
Can't be that hard. Apply selection.
Yeah.
Oh, select property 1.
Great.
Yeah, please select property to share. No
So you're-
property is good.
So if it says 1 over here under selected properties, you're good. So just go on to number 2 and select people.
Please indicate, would you like to grant the same access?
So
act.
click, are you in sharing down here now? Choose
Yep.
permissions.
Yep.
Click, you can select read only access and then hit share properties.
Okay. I think we're good. You've successfully accepted and shared.
We got it.
Cool. Good. I like someone looking over my back that's a little younger, more familiar with another site.
No worries. So I have, now it says Bon Villa shared from Jeannie, read only access. So I will be able to check that out and I can send you a note about it. Okay.
Oh, super. And hopefully maybe they'll give somebody else this project instead of me. But that's not happening.
You got
for
it.
me.
You figured it out.
You got to do something in life. Retiring doesn't look beautiful. Super. Thank you. You got my phone number. If you could just email me, my email address is my name. So that would be super or whatever.
Thank you.
Help.
Hopefully that was helpful too. Anybody else? Anyone else going to be my friend on Portfolio Manager?
I do have a question if I can real quick.
Sure.
So I don't have all the data yet, so I didn't want to, actually submit anything.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm ready to share all the data once we have that, do I just go, is that just go into the sharing, go through that whole step?
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a formal template that we have to share to, or is it just share read access only?
It's actually that other button. It's a little different than the read access only. It is, can you see my screen still?
Yeah, I can see it.
So once you select your properties, like I was doing with Jeannie, and then you pick Village of Oak or VOP benchmarking team as your people to select,
Mhm.
you're going to click this bottom button, which is personalized sharing and exchange data.
Got it. And then that's just where we give all the read-only access.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And all of those little buttons and which ones to check are going to be in that power that you'll get if you want to follow that along. And I think we'll also have some step-by-step instructions like written out, if that's helpful too. But sometimes seeing the screenshots is more useful.
Got it. I guess
Mhm.
forward thinking.
Mhm.
Is that something we're just gonna have to share one time and just make sure we stay
Yeah.
in
So
on
it'll
top of the data?
once you do this, add that contact, which was up at the top, adding Village of Oak Park benchmarking team as your contact, and then sharing the property with the permissions, you won't have to do that ever again, unless you have more properties that end up being yours to manage. You'll have to select additional properties to share with them. But no, you won't have to do that again. It'll be shared read-only access forever,
Okay.
unless you unshare it.
And then Oak Park at just some point we'll take a look, see that the data's in there, and we're all set.
Yep. And if there's any like questions or weird stuff with your data, they may reach out and ask you some questions at the beginning of next year. If there's something that needs to get fixed or calculated differently. But yeah, I think that's the case. They'll be, when they review all that data, they'll check in with folks.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for clearing that up.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I have all sorts of notifications. Anybody else? David, you good? Awesome. Marcella, Allison, I think we might be done. No one
I
else
mean,
has
this
any
sounds
questions.
great to me. I'm looking. Thanks for the help today. Okay, thanks. Where do I need to enter this? Okay, one quick question. So I just sent NPML-REG their UBID number. So would you mind just walking through for them where to enter in the UBID number again?
Oh, sure. Let me pick this really quick. So you pick your building. I'm gonna go back to Holly Court. Once you're in your building profile, you're gonna go to the details tab here. And this is if you've already set up your building, like if you've added the property already and it's there, this is where you'll go to add it. If you're setting up your property for the first time, it might ask you if you want to enter a standard ID. So it just depends on where you are in the process, where to do this. But if you're entering it after this property has been set up, you're going to go here on the details tab to unique identifiers box and click edit. And then scroll down to standard IDs. And then pick UBID from this list here. And then enter the number Allison gave you in this box and click save. And then you won't have to do that ever again either. I don't know if you can unmute. Did that make sense? NPML-REG. Or you can type in the chat.
They're saying, they say yes.
Okay,
They
great.
said yes to me in a direct message. Great.
Okay, got it.
And you should be able to just copy and paste it too. So that
Yep.
should work.
Yep.
Great. Thanks, Katie.
You're welcome. Sorry, I didn't realize they were direct. I couldn't see those.
Yeah, of course.
David gave me a thumbs up. He's good. Dominique, are there any questions from Dominique in the chat?
Not to me.
Okay.
I don't see any.
Dominique, are you good? I don't know if you can hear us, hopefully still, but we'll send a follow-up email to all of the attendees with the PDF of the presentation. And if anyone has any questions after the fact, feel free and follow up. Happy to help.
All right. That
Thank
looks like
you.
a wrap. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So folks, if you do have any further questions, if you email sustainability@oak-park.us, we can get you to the right location. And we'll also be sending out information about those office hours and other support going forward. So thanks very much.
Thanks. Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Thanks. Goodbye.